Ladies and gentlemen, the most exciting stage show you've ever
Art, do you ever just want to go do that drum there at the end and just?
I try to figure it out. That's got to be some kind of AI beats because those aren't human. Like I don't know how to keep rhythm with that stuff. It's nuts. Yeah.
Welcome everybody. You are watching the Brofessionals, the rotating show that we each take a turn hosting every week. And this week it is my turn. As you can see, we're a little short-handed. Apparently, Graham, the ultimate man, Nolan, got sick at the convention this past weekend, and Billy, of course, is collecting his 4th place green ribbon at the JCs tonight. So he'll either not be joining us at all, or he'll be coming in late. So
Billy's getting his participation trophy.
That's exactly. Right. You know, Billy doesn't want to. He's got a whole shelf full of participation trophies, and he doesn't want to miss it. So
that's right. You know what? I think we should call this the A's have it because all the A-listers are on the show tonight.
That's right. It's
we're triple A
tonight. I like that. Triple
A.
We're
triple A.
All right, guys. We're going to be talking about, this seems like a lame topic, but it keeps coming up. Jim Lee just made a few comments about, elevating the comic book artist again and, above the writers. And so we're going to get into that a little bit. But I want to, have we been doing the comic book stuff that in history weekly?
We actually forgot last week. I was going to bring it up, but we were
Graham forgot?
Yeah, we were like 10 minutes in, 10, 15 minutes in, and I was like, I'm not going to bring it up now. But
we should call this thing is the Bros Correct AI, because this thing is very rarely correct. Like it's always wrong.
Let's see how it does. So now, according to AI, our friend Grok, today is the birthday of Dave Gibbons. He was born in 19.
Oh, nice.
And how about that?
Grok is no one's friend. If Grok was an ice cream flavor, it'd be pralines and dick.
Wow. Damn.
That's like
what movie is that from?
Ever.
That's from a movie?
Yeah.
Well,
I have no idea.
I like it. How about the birthday of Katsuhiro Otomo?
Wow.
Creator of Akira. And
70, what's that? He's 72.
Yeah.
Wow. He's a young man.
Well, wait a minute. How old is Dave Gibbons then? He's like 77 then.
77. Right? I wouldn't have placed him. I didn't think Dave was that old.
Well, this is AI, so it could be wrong.
It's probably wrong, yeah.
First publication of the influential British comic Eagle in 1950. Really? That far back? That's crazy.
Was Eagle a compilation or one of those?
Right. I thought it was like an anthology type.
Anthology, yeah.
Well, I mean, it started in 1950. Who knows how it started? It's an anthology now, I believe, because it's still being published, isn't it?
I think so, yeah.
But I mean, everyone I've seen was an anthology because didn't Eagle publish Judge Dredd?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it had other stories in it as well. Now back then, it says it introduced Dan Dare, so maybe it was just Dan Dare back then.
Yeah, it's hard to say. Only the Brits would know, and we have a few in the chat, so maybe they would know this.
Because AI
Also,
sure
Hey,
doesn't.
this says it's Chuck Dixon's birthday.
that's what it says today. Do you think that's right?
I don't know. I didn't see it unless he doesn't have his. You know how when you go to Facebook, it'll say these people have birthdays. On your friends list. I didn't see Chuck's name come up. So
Yeah. So okay, take this all with a grain of salt, you guys. I did want to point out they said they've got Mac Rayboy on here. April
No.
9th.
It is Chuck Dixon's birthday. Happy birthday, Chuck Dixon.
oh, happy
Hey,
birthday,
Chuck.
Chuck.
1954.
So he is the same age as Katsuhiro Otomo.
Chuck was born in 1954.
Yeah, that's what it says.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't
Isn't
know
that-
that. I thought he
isn't
was
that the year-
probably late 50s, early 60s. I thought he was like around Graham's age, which would be
Oh,
Art's age.
He's
No,
a
Grant,
he's like
Grant,
Baron.
Grant's the old man. Yeah.
He's like Baron. He's like a geezer. Yeah.
I like when old people call other old people geezers.
Well, as long as he's older than me.
The geezer fits.
That's right. Mac Rayboy was born in April 9th in 1914. How about that?
Wow.
And what does this say about the major Marvel milestone? Doctor Strange, the Ancient One, Wong, Nightmare, the Sanctum Sanctorum, and related mystical elements were debuted in Strange Tales 110, which was the first appearance of Doctor Strange.
You should know if that's true.
Is that 63?
Well, that is correct, but I don't know about if it was this week. But that's what AI is telling us. So
Huh.
there you
And
go.
yesterday, was it yesterday or the day before? It was Gary Martin's birthday.
That's right. On
If we
Sunday.
If we want to do this week. Now, what was he like, 1945?
Something like that.
He just hit the big 7-0.
I'd worry about saying that, but I know he doesn't watch us.
Yeah. Well, who does?
You know what's
really?
funny is I remember when Gary told me his age, and he made it sound like it was like some kind of like top secret thing, like don't tell anybody. But
It probably wasn't, and Aaron just outed him as being 7.
Well,
Way to go, buddy.
no, David Williams already outed him today, so I thought I'm off the hook because David already did it. So because I wasn't going to say anything, but probably back then though, Art, you don't want editors to know how old you are.
No.
Because if you get to that age where maybe they think you're too old to hire you, so you keep that stuff secret.
I never really was too concerned about it. But the thing is now, how do you guys feel about your age? Like, I'm proud of my age. I'm like,
No,
yeah,
okay.
I kicked some ass.
Well, actually, it's funny. I was thinking about that because I'll be 57 in November. And like, I don't know. I was just thinking about like 55, 56, didn't really, I don't know, just didn't really focus on anything. But I thought about, man, I want to be 57 because somebody at the show asked me, or I was talking, whatever. And I thought, 57? That is damn close to 60. I don't know how I feel about that.
60 is a bit of a shock to the system. When I turned 30, I freaked out.
Did you really?
Yeah.
When I turned 40, nothing. And then when I turned 50, nothing. But when I turned 51, I was like, ugh.
I was 30. I was freaked out because I was like, okay, you're absolutely an adult now. And your life is changing. And then
You can't hide anymore, Aaron.
right.
You're
Well,
an adult.
I was 28 when we got married. So I'd been married a little bit, but I still felt young and spry, but 30, I was like, wow. Then I hit 40.
Better than
was
you when I got
frustrated.
married.
I hit 40, and that really made me uncomfortable. 50 wasn't that bad, but 60, then I was like, whoa. And now I'm 62, which is really getting me, whoa.
Now, do you ever think back? Like, I remember thinking, so last year was our 30th anniversary, and I got married when I was 25 because my birthday's late in the year, and we got married a week before my birthday. So technically I was still 25, But I was thinking about it and I was like, my mom was 55. My dad was 56 when I got married. And I was like, wow, I'm my parents' ages when their kid got married.
Yeah, I'm past that.
Yeah.
Well, the sad thing is when I think about my parents, I've already outlived my parents, both of them.
Really?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they died in their early mid 60s.
What they die of?
Well, my dad had complications from cancer, and my mom just kind of gave up the ghost.
How long did she
No.
how long did she live after your dad passed away?
They died within months of each other.
Did they really?
I think you know how they say like there's that old 50s adage like you died of a broken heart
Yeah,
or
that's
whatever,
why I
you know,
asked.
like that's a real thing. I really think that's
I
what
agree.
got my mom. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
one of the there's I remember this happened. I don't know if you guys are. Joe Paterno was the football coach at Penn State for years. He was coaching into his 70s, and there was a sex scandal that he wasn't
Yep.
a part of, but he was overseeing the program, so he got canned and all this kind of stuff. And he died like not even a year later, and he was just coaching. You know, so just as like you take certain things away from people in their lives, and then it's just like, who gives a rip? It's over.
Yeah, a lot of guys, they said like when they retire, you know, they kind of lose a sense of self and purpose and that they don't make it very much longer. Me, I'm looking forward to it. You know what? We've probably like an average person, we've worked 3 times as hard. I don't care. I'll argue that point. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
weekends, 10-hour days, sometimes longer,
Yeah.
going into the evening, you know, like, I mean, just the sheer amount of hours that we've put in. I mean, it's not like necessarily physical labor, you know, like digging a ditch or putting power lines in or something like that, but still a lot of work.
Yeah, hours in the day. Major Glitch says, "Wow, this is a cheery subject. Should we liven it up and talk about child abortion?" Oh my gosh.
We could talk about we could cheer everybody up and talk about Eric Swalwell.
What a dumbass that guy is.
That dude, everybody knew he was a dumbass. I mean, and here's the thing that kills me, and I know that's not the topic, but I just had to bring it up.
We'll get there eventually.
We'll get there.
The thing that kills me is all these people I know on Facebook that one, it just kills me seeing he was a good guy. I'd say, you know, unlike the Republicans, at least the Democrats are doing something about it, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, are you kidding me? If that dude was like polling really high in the governor race in California, they would have done everything they could to sweep it under the rug. But because he wasn't, and how California has their elections, they got to get his ass out of there.
He was banging a Chinese spy and they didn't do anything.
Exactly.
Are you kidding me?
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
A true American.
Yeah. As Billy would say, the Chi Coms.
Dude,
So that guy's got our backs. So just remember, you guys in California, you know, Texas is big and there's plenty of room here. So
that's right. Just make sure you change your politics before you move.
yeah, don't bring them here. Yeah, don't bring them.
Bring your woke politics to Texas.
That's right.
All right. So usually we start the topic, then go off the rails. We went off the rails before we even got to the topic.
Well, you did preface the topic, so we did get that.
I'm going to bring up the article here, and really, honestly, Jim Lee didn't say much, but
it's funny. I read it. So we all thought, I thought we were going live at 8, right? Because Billy posted about, hey, can we go at 8? And then Aaron didn't see it. And, you know, it's his show and whatever. So we're going live at 7. And my first thing was, shit, I got to read that article. So I got up here and I read it and I was like, wait, that's it?
Yeah. There's nothing here really, except that it says comics should never be thought of as a writer-focused medium, and in recent years, it's getting harder and harder to make that mistake. Visually groundbreaking new works such as DC Comics' Absolute line have made artists like Nick Dragata and Javier Rodriguez household names in the comic book world. I've never heard of them, so maybe I don't count as someone in the comic book world. Anyway, so Lee recently spoke to the Hollywood Reporter about comic fans making their favorite artists into celebrities, a trend he recognizes from his own time founding Image Comics. Blah, 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 blah. So basically, he's just thinking that it's good for the art form and good for business if they start pumping up the artists again, and artists start carrying the books as opposed to the writers, which, I mean, to me, this isn't necessarily a, why am I looking at Whatnot?
I don't know. Go back to your the tab you were supposed to be on.
There we go. Okay. So basically my thing was, well, the thing that was interesting about this was, because there was definitely a period in time, like probably, I guess in the 60s, everybody knew that Stan Lee was writing the books and he became kind of a celebrity and he would do the college campus stuff like that. But when you were growing up as a kid, like you guys were reading in the, me and Art probably in the 60s, 70s, you in the 80s, with the exception of writer artists like Frank Miller and Walter Simonson and Byrne a little bit as well. It's like, did you even know who the writer was half the time or care?
Nope. I know, but
I didn't either.
It's always, I think it's tough when it's tough for us to have a subjective view, because even back then, at least I knew I wanted to draw comics. So I was always attracted to the art, right?
Yeah.
But there wasn't a time, when I got into comics, it wasn't because of the art. That's why I got into them, because it's what I wanted to do. So I looked at books and picked them up that way. But, some of the friends I had and stuff back then that were into comics that didn't write and didn't draw, they just, got them because they like comics. They, they would follow books and stuff, but they could also, if there was a fill-in issue that wasn't done that well or something, they would notice, but they'd still get it because obviously it's just this one fill-in issue,
Right.
And there wasn't that big change because now artists just rotate out, it seems, rather quickly after like 6-12 issues or something.
Well, I have a lot to say about this, but you guys were saying you didn't know who Nick Dragata. He's the absolute Batman guy. I think Aaron said it. So if you click on that, he draws that big, really Batman.
But he didn't start that way, Nick. See, here's the thing. You know how they say, it takes 10 years to become an overnight success?
Yeah.
Right. Well, Nick's getting his props now with Absolute Batman. Nick's been, now I don't know if he's been around 10 years. In fact, I'll look it up, but he's been around. I've seen his work before, but on Absolute Batman, I was like, it's different,
Well, guys this has always been the story. Guys get pumped up by the success of the book they're on. And, it's not to say that he's not partially responsible for the success of that book, but the fact that it ended up being a hit for whatever reason is also helping him, get a higher profile when he worked on other stuff that maybe no one paid attention to. Right. So my point was, though, that, and it will get to you, Art, in just a second here, but my point was that really throughout the history of comics, other than artist writers like Frank Miller, Simonson, Byrne, did we really notice the writers that much in the 70s and 80s? No.
Nope.
Then Image came, and so art was already a big deal, but then they made it a super big deal, and almost to the point where in the Image books, a lot of the Image books, the writing suffered, right? So maybe it was the first time people started noticing, these stories aren't that great, but the art's really cool. And then, of course, Marvel lost all that money, and everybody went to Image, and so they said, we're never going to do that again. So then they started maybe pushing writers a little bit more, and you see guys like Mark Waid and guys like that sort of rose out of that with a name popularity. And that's not to say that Len Wein and Wolfman and guys like that, Archie Goodwin, weren't known, but it was always like, did you get that latest Neil Adams Green Lantern? Not did you get Archie Goodwin's Green Lantern or whatever. It was always the artist. And it wasn't until I think more recently, you may disagree, but within the last, 30 years post Image, whatever that timeline is, that's when they started pushing writers more and kept moving artists around from, you can only do a 1 year on Wonder Woman and then you're off, because we don't want you to become the character, more important than the character, or people associate Aaron with Wonder Woman. So whenever he leaves, and there's going to be up in arms, so you just keep guys moving so no one ever gets to attach to a particular artist. And I kind of felt like that was a purposeful thing that Marvel.
It was a purposeful thing. And also, because you're right, those companies, I know, especially Marvel, because I was there before Image, after Image, all that. And the thing is, they resented the fact that those guys got power and tried to dictate terms to the company. And so they resented it. So they never wanted it to happen again, but it didn't happen instantly. It happened over a period of time. And then, like you said, nobody had a significant run on a book. Artists weren't really like publicized or promoted like they were, and all those things. And I think that all these companies like Quesada, Marvel, Jim Lee specifically really knew that they didn't want superstar artists anymore, because they didn't want any, because now, Jim's head of a corporation, and he doesn't want anybody challenging his authority or questioning things like that. And so just to bring it back to that article, I think the reason Jim's saying this now, sorry, Jim, but I think he's saying it because they want to keep these artists happy. So they know that they can't pay them a lot of money. They know that the market isn't strong. It isn't great right now. So in lieu of that, they can promote these guys. You know what I mean? In lieu of money, in lieu of those things, to try to keep them happy and to keep them drawing their books. So I think that's what's going on right now. I think that's what Jim's doing. I don't think because I mean, like you said, Aaron, when we were there at DC, they did everything in their power really not to create. They didn't give us significant runs. They knew you could do a monthly. They knew I could do a monthly, but we weren't doing monthlies. Very few people were. I think Capullo, there was just a handful of guys that got a monthly assignment at that time. And I think it's just because they didn't want to create any more superstars.
No, I totally agree with that. And I think it's interesting what you're saying about Jim, because you say, well, what's the value in promoting an artist if you're not going to pay him more? Well, the more popular you are, the more your original art is worth money. And the more you can make money on the side, the more popular you are. So there is some value in that, of getting pumped up, even if it's not your page rate.
Right.
So,
and even if it's just your ego, just to have a company, acknowledge that, when Jim Lee says you're amazing, that has some kind of, resonance, kind of connection. Yeah.
So, by the way, I looked it up, and it looks like Nick started in 2002.
Okay. So he's been
around for a while.
20 some odd years.
Yeah.
He was and that was it says he was doing indie stuff in the late 90s, but you could say the big break was Ecstatics in 2002 when he collaborated with Peter Milligan, it says. And then he did do I remember him doing the Future Foundation stuff, which was like back in 2011 with Hickman. And then in 2013, they did East of West at Image, which was like a sci-fi Western.
I remember.
And, they worked on that for like 10 years.
He's kind of like, was it Matt Scolari? Is that his name? Like he does that kind of
Mateo, I think it is.
Mateo Scalero or whatever.
Mateo Scalero, yeah, like that kind of ink wash look.
I don't remember. I know what East of West is, but honestly, I looked at it and it just wasn't my bag, baby.
But
I'm looking at his Google. There's a lot of like ink wash stuff.
Do you think, though, that even promoting artists at this point can make a difference the way the industry is? I mean, are we ever going to see another Arthur Adams? Are we ever going to see another Jim Lee? Are we ever going to see another, I don't know, fill in the blank, Frank Miller?
I think part of it is the industry is definitely smaller now than when it was back then. And even when Art Adams started, I mean, dude, that was the mid 80s, it was like, oh, your book's at 100,000, cancel it, you know? So there are, you know, top like artists at each company. You know, Jorge Jimenez and Dan Mora are like,
Yeah, but is Jorge Jimenez, is he still doing stuff at DC, or is he doing indie stuff now?
who?
He's doing
Jorge
covers and stuff. I don't know if he's doing
Wait,
interior.
who'd you say? Jimenez?
Yeah.
Well, he just did the Spider-Man Superman that came out
Oh, okay.
for DC.
Okay.
But before that, I mean, he was on Batman. Yeah. Oh no, he's doing the new Batman book. So yeah, what am I talking about? He's doing the new Batman book that is on issue 7 or 8.
Okay.
With Matt Fraction. You know? And Dan Moore still does the monthly stuff.
Aaron, I don't think it's going to happen again. Just personally, and I'm not saying that, you know, because I'm like this old guy looking back and don't want any superstars. I just don't think the market is there, and I think that the guys that are in charge of these companies still have that kind of, we got to keep these guys under control. You know, even though Jim says what he's saying, I think he's saying it for PR, and I think he's saying that to stroke these guys' egos, because I think there just isn't the money in it. You know, so what else can Jim give but some compliments, you know, and praise, you know, for these guys? I really don't think it's going to happen again, because also you'd have to have significant runs. You know, I don't think anybody's getting monthlies. You know, like there are books that I worked on for like years,
Yeah,
you know, 2-3 years, you know, doing a monthly. And I don't see that. Like I said, the last person I saw was like Greg Capullo and Scott Snyder. But other than that, I don't remember anybody doing any kind of yearly, you know, year in, year out runs. You know,
yeah.
so,
Well, I was on
just
Wonder
going
Woman.
back to Jimenez real quick. I think he had, before this new Batman started, when he was on, you know, the regular Batman book, he had a few year run on it.
Yeah.
You know,
there's always exceptions. Like I said, there was
but
I don't think they're giving it, like, because that used to be the norm. The norm was you were on a monthly for years,
right?
You know.
Yeah. Well, I was on Wonder Woman for almost 2 years, and I think 18 months or something. And then they said, okay, so we're going to move you to. I was supposed to go on Superman, but it sucked so bad I wouldn't take it. But anyway, but I was not because of sales or anything else. It was just like, okay, we're moving you off Wonder Woman, you know, and to do something else. And it wasn't even like a choice. Hey, Aaron, do you want to stay on Wonder Woman? It was like, okay, we're moving you off Wonder Woman. We're getting a new creative team and you're going someplace else. So it was like, it was built in.
What is it? Do you remember what you did after?
Yeah, I did before Justice League International, the New 52, there was a Justice League International maxi series. It was like 24 issues long. And Judd Winnick wrote it, I think.
Right.
And I did, I want to say it was bi-weekly or something. I can't remember, but I did like every 5 issues or something. There was 3 of us something working on it. I can't remember exactly. There was a lot of people working on it. But
is that the one where Finch was doing covers?
No, that he was doing that for my run on. That was the New 52 where he did the Justice League.
Oh,
because I was doing the covers for the issues that I was working on.
right.
But I got to pick which ones I wanted to do. That was kind of like, okay, so you're the top artist on this. And so I want to do the Metal Men, so I'll take that issue and that type of thing. But this series, and it had the old Justice League International, you know, Captain Atom was in there, Blue Beetle, although they were using the new Blue Beetle, which was fine because I thought he looked cool anyway.
Right.
Or cooler than the old Blue Beetle. And so then when that was a surprise success, that's when they spun it off in the New 52. So I was supposed to take over Superman regularly, but that was when they were doing Superman Walks Across America or Clark Kent or whatever. And I was like, I'm not drawing this. And so then they quickly had to move me over to that Justice League project, which then became the regular Justice League International series, which then got canceled after 12 issues because of politics, office politics, not Republican,
Right.
Democrat
See,
politics.
I would have went with Superman regardless because
Maybe.
that book's not going anywhere, and
Yeah, but they could have
you just
moved
never
me
know.
off of it after that run with what's his Babylon 5 guy that wrote it.
Oh, Straczynski.
Yeah, I can't stand his writing, but I mean, it was just boring as sin.
No, I know. I saw some of the stuff. I didn't get it, but I saw it.
Quit. He quit the series before he even finished it. The writer who conceptualized this whole thing. And yeah, if I'd stayed on Superman and they would have allowed me, to grind through that piece of crap and then actually do something, maybe it would have been a better move on my part. But I just saw career death.
You know what? We've all done that. Sometimes it pays off. Most of the time,
you never know.
When you stay on a book and you think, or they dangle a carrot and go, okay, well, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. And 9 times out of 10, it never really does.
Right.
But then you're stuck, doing like a year's worth of crappy work on a book that, was stealing your soul.
Right. That's exactly what I was thinking.
I want to go back to the Jim Lee thing. I love paradox. I love analyzing this stuff. Okay, so the headline is comic artist once again being as popular as comic writer is good for business and the art form, says superstar artist turned DC publisher Jim Lee. Okay, let's just go back a little bit. All that stuff that we were talking about, how like it was hard to become a superstar, all that stuff, because we didn't have runs and we, long runs and all that stuff. Who was in charge?
Right.
Jim Lee. So Jim Lee created the writer superstar, and now he's like, well, let's make the artist superstar. It's like, oh, okay, well, which is it? Like can't it be both? Like, can we have like really strong writers and strong artists on the book? Why does it have to be one or the other? I always think, like it's the combination of the two. And I remember
it's supposed to be, yeah.
Right. But I remember talking to, it was Marv Wolfman. And Marv said, I don't look at myself as like an artist, like talent on the book. He said, I kind of try to spark the creative imagination of the artist. That's my job. And he said, I write visually. So he tries to create the most visual ideas that he can for an artist to draw. And right. I thought, this is Marv Wolfman. So at the time I was like, you're being overly humble right now. But he was very sincere about it. So I think like he really meant it, like that he's a process guy, but the art is the end result. You know what I mean? Like I'm just trying to get this guy to this point, and then that's what becomes the book. And I thought that was it always stuck with me. And I don't know if it's really true or not, but I mean, if you look at Marv's stuff, it was always story. I think he was always, story and character. His Titans run was just on par with the best comic runs ever. Him and George.
Well, let me take the super chat real quick. Yep. Leg Kick for $10. Thank you, Leg Kick. He says, "Hi guys, don't mean to be a downer, but did you hear Adam Hughes is in the hospital?" I did not hear that.
No, I didn't hear that either.
Keep my eye on that for sure.
Well, we'll send out prayers and good thoughts to Adam and his family.
Yeah. One of the interesting things that I thought happened, and I don't know if do we blame this on the audience getting older, and so therefore this idea in the minds of editorial or publication staffs that we need better writing because the expectation now is we have 30 somethings and 40 somethings reading comic books, not 12-year-olds. So we need to get a better class of writer. And because I remember when Terry Dodson, when they revamped Wonder Woman, that was a series I took over from Terry, but when they launched it, they hired a playwright to write Wonder Woman. Of course, it was a disaster, but right. It's like they were consciously making these like weird decisions like that. because they suddenly the writing became so important and the artist didn't matter. I mean, do you guys remember Animal Man?
Yeah.
And it was written by Grant Morrison, right? And everybody was raving. It had the great Bolin covers, but the
Right.
inside art, who was the guy? Truog or who drew the
Chas Truog? I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but
no offense to him, and I apologize for him because I don't like to criticize people, but it was not what you'd consider interesting mainstream type art. Let's just put it that way. And
right.
it was, and I wouldn't pick it up because I didn't like the art, even though everybody kept telling me how great the stories were.
Hey, dude, I was right there with you. I loved the visuals of Animal Man with the jean jacket or the jacket over top his orange suit with the big A on it and stuff. I loved it. Loved the stuff in the 80s with Gil Kane when he was in Action Comics and stuff. Animal Man was. And when he got his own series, I was like, oh, cool. And, you got Boland on covers, but I was the same way. I could not get into the art, so I didn't buy it.
Was that because it was like the British thing? Was that when DC was just kind of staying with like a British team? Because is that guy that you're talking about, was he British? Because I always thought he was.
I don't know.
But see,
Time to do a Google search.
You can't imagine that he would have been picked to be the artist unless Grant Morrison was okay with it.
Right. That's why I think there was some kind of British invasion or British like teams that they were putting on the book, because also he wasn't
he's from central Minnesota.
Okay. Because he reminds me of, what was that guy that drew League of Extraordinary Gentlemen? It was kind of like on that level of art.
Marcus would tell us.
Well, Eddie Campbell did From Hell, right? And that was very bizarre stuff. He was Australian, I think, or is Australian.
Close enough.
But I don't know who. So then my point being that in a lot of these cases, you had writers picking the artists instead of the editors, would be my guess.
Yeah, but I can't. I guess. I mean, I was going to say, like, I don't know. I guess if you're the big enough name writer and stuff, they'll let you do it. Oh, Kevin O'Neill. I think
Kevin O'Neill. Yeah, Kevin O'Neill. Yeah.
But like Marvel on the Ultimate books, I do think Bendis on Marvel Team Up, I think he had a say in the artist because they would have a different artist every month on the book.
Yeah.
And I think that he was picking people because the stuff to me looked very independent. It wasn't Marvel polish, on those books. So it always seemed like it was more like a personal connection Bendis had, or, it was more independent minded because that's where, Bendis came from.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you look at, in the 80s and 70s and stuff, obviously there were less books coming out. And, generally, I think across the board, I could pick up, almost any Marvel book in the 70s, later 70s, 80s and stuff, and be like, yeah, this looks like good, superhero art. Is it as good as, say, John Buscema was at the time? No, but it was good looking stuff. You see stuff go into the 90s when there was the big explosion, not implosion, but the explosion. Before the implosion, they were just hiring anybody, and it showed. And you had crap looking art and stuff because they were just trying to pump stuff out.
I think I was one of those guys that got hired then.
No, stop. And even now, you look at some of the stuff. You look at some of the stuff from the big two now, and like I said, it's no secret. I go to the shop every Wednesday, and I generally flip through almost everything, or at least I'll look at the cover, and if I recognize the artist's name, obviously I don't have to flip through it. It's usually if a name I don't recognize, I'll be like, oh, let's see what this looks like. And there's winners. Some really good art, and there's still some that's like, what is this? And in this day and age, I think a lot of that comes from just shitty editors just not having a clue.
And just money. Yeah, there's money, but there's always there's always been that, there's like these top tier guys that no matter what the dollar amount that they're being paid are, rising to the occasion and just doing great work. And then there's always like the status quo guys that are just making the schedule and getting things done. So there's always been that. But personally, I think what's happening right now is just print medium is dying. Period.
Yeah.
So all these books are suffering from that one thing. TV, like these things that we grew up with. TV is pretty much a dinosaur at this point. A lot of medium, that we grew up on is pretty much gone. I mean, even when we were coming up the ranks, well, in Andy's day, radio was probably already dead. You had MTV and.
Oh yeah, I mean, I remember MTV and stuff, but radio wasn't dead just because.
I mean, real radio. I mean, when DJs were picking their music, when like.
No, that was still. I think that was still going on in the 80s. I can't speak for the 90s, but I will say when I worked at the radio station here in town, in 2008 to 2010, the few times that I would go in just to basically, because the show was more of a talk show, but the few times that I would go in and fill in for somebody where it was just music for like, the standard 3-hour shift, 4-hour shift, I didn't pick anything. It was all automated. There was no obviously putting even a CD in. It was.
That's what I'm talking about, where it was more corporate, coming in and stuff like that. Maybe it was later in the 80s or 90s that it was pretty much dead. But the radio I grew up on, pretty much was gone by the 80s, where there were DJs, breaking new talent, basically just pioneering the whole FM radio thing. I'm not ancient, but I'm old enough to remember that stuff.
Yeah.
So I think like these things are just being traded out for new things. And I think, all these publishers, I feel for them. I feel for Jim Lee and whoever's running Marvel at this point, because they're basically just grasping at straws. I mean, Jim doesn't know. I can honestly say Jim doesn't know what makes a good comic, what makes a comic sell, any of those things. He doesn't know. And anybody who's running Marvel, they don't know either. Because if they really did know, they'd be doing it and the books would be selling better.
Right. No, I agree with that. I think you're on point. I think Jim doesn't. I mean, like you said, if he knew, if he was like, this is what's going to sell the books, he would do it.
So I think to answer, I think it was Aaron or maybe it was you, Andy, that were bringing in like the guy was a playwright. They're just hiring people outside of the industry and stuff. I mean, even then, I think they were just grasping at straws. Like, I don't think they really knew, what they were doing or what really makes a good comic book. And I think it's just kind of the arc is continuing.
There's two things, though, Art. There's what does it take to make a good comic book, and what does it make to make a comic book that'll sell? Those are two different things. There's a lot of good comic books that never sold. So there was a time where people putting the comic books together knew how to make good comics, but it was always a crapshoot on what was going to sell and what wouldn't. You never knew, right? Who knew X-Men would be the greatest thing since sliced bread, right? Who knew? Right. But it ended up being that. But and you can see, I think, and this is the problem I have with all of this. I think and I get why Marvel reacted the way they did to Image, but you should let stuff happen organically. Right? Who was it? I think maybe it was Ethan last night on Kings was making the point. He's right. He goes, Marvel didn't make Todd McFarlane a superstar. Todd McFarlane made Todd McFarlane a superstar. And that's how it usually does. Right? I mean, Frank Miller was a nobody, took over Daredevil, the dying book. They gave it to him to write and draw, and he turned it into a sensation. Right? Thor was in the crapper, and Simonson comes in, does Beta Ray Bill, and everybody loses their mind. And although Walter was an established pro, he wasn't the superstar that he became after what he did with Thor. So if I don't see this point of necessarily promoting this guy or promoting. Let it happen organically. Just try and get good people in there. And if it's a good book, I mean, you could still argue, you have to go back to the 70s, but you could argue, well, who was the real star of Swamp Thing? Was it Len Wein, who wrote some really good stories, or was it Bernie Wrightson, who just illustrated the crap out of them? You know?
Well, I mean, the thing is,
equal gravitas from that book.
The thing is, comics, to me, it's always somebody's picking it up. If it's not word of mouth, you know, if I'm not going up to you going, dude, I just read this great book, you got to get it, right? If it's not word of mouth, then you're just walking into a shop. It's a visual medium. That's why you pick it up. Mm-hmm. That's why I picked up that, you know, Swamp Thing with Bernie and Len, and obviously back issues, but that's why I picked it up. So I was like, holy shit, this art's fantastic. And then I read it.
Yeah.
And I was like, really I want to read more.
Yeah.
Hey, can I say something real quick? I know I'm late.
You're late.
But you said this, when you looked at the book, you said this art's fantastic. Well, let me tell you something. That art is fantastic.
That art is right there. That art is fantastic.
That art right there. That art right there. That's the guy.
Thank you, Billy. Checks in the mail.
Thank you.
Let me grab the super chat. We have a slight pause. Hang on a second. Hang on. Let me get the super chat. Paul Taylor, Canadian $10. Paul is, of course, our resident biologist. He says vinyl died, then it came back. Comics from the big two died because they're garbage. Once they lose enough money and someone else takes them over, they can make a return. They need quality, though.
Quality.
Yeah, no, I mean, and look at that. Vinyl did make a comeback. And I
it might have made it come. It's not selling what it was. It's not even.
No, it's not selling what it was.
So when you say it came back, well, yeah, it came back. But it's not anywhere close to what it was.
No, it's not. Right. I mean, no recording artist out there is going.
I'm sorry, Paul.
Sell it on vinyl or nothing else. You know,
because he gives us $10 and art's just ripping.
I know that I shit on his point. I'm sorry, Paul.
Don't shit on his point. Shit on his team.
Yeah, exactly. But the challenge, what you said, Aaron, about like let it happen organically and all that stuff. I do think that if you have a standout talent and the book is kind of picking up, and the way you used to be able to tell if the book was picking up is like these was the longer runs, right? So if you're 6 issues into your run and then the back issues start like heating up, then you know that talent in that book has something going on. That's how they used to gauge these things. But at that point, then as a company, I think you need to get behind those things.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like you need to start advertising, you need to start promoting, you need to get those artists out of conventions, you need to start getting behind this stuff because you can build those things. But Marvel in the day, I was there, and that's why they go hand in hand with Disney, is because they do not want to cop to the individual talents. They want it to be, it's their IP, and that's it. Spider-Man is Spider-Man. It doesn't matter who draws it. Spider-Man is the draw. X-Men are the draw, whatever. That's been proven time and time again not to be true, but that's the conceit of these corporations. They don't want to acknowledge the talent. And then when Image happened, they really doubled down on it. You know what I mean? I mean, there was a little bit of that, but not to the extent that it became. And I know firsthand that Bob Harris felt really betrayed. I mean, really betrayed.
By the Image guys leaving?
Yeah, everybody leaving. Yeah. Because
and that's a company man, though. I like Bob a lot, but hey, fuck it. They don't have any health insurance from them. They don't owe them anything. And look what happens when they get old and infirm. Marvel doesn't do a fucking thing for those people.
No.
You look at what from Herb Trimpe, you look at all the stories of these guys that are dying. Peter David, these guys that died, that they're in financial duress, all this stuff, and they don't do shit for them. They don't give them they don't give them any kind of pension. Shit, Todd McFarlane said they don't even give him a fucking watch. That he's worked for them for so long, and it made millions of dollars for them, and they never even gave him a watch. They
don't want to acknowledge your contribution because then it would give you power and negotiation clout, and they just don't want to do it.
Right.
And that's kind of the long and short of it. And I understand it, but I at the same time, it's like you were saying about Harris, it's like it kind of is every man for himself. And the Image guys, before they were the Image guys, they did go to Marvel and try to renegotiate a contract. They didn't just say fuck you and leave. They tried to work things out. And then they went over to DC and tried to play the two companies against each other. And DC, they weren't in the ballpark either. So then they were just like, hey, let's just do it ourselves. So
do you wonder if those guys had, because I know from what I've heard, Jim Lee was not on board with leaving and at first. But what if those guys hadn't left? What if they said, you know what, instead of saying, you know what, we're making this much money, we could even make 10 times this if we did it ourselves. And that's why they went, was for the money, right? To get a bigger, and that's fine. Right. But let's just say they didn't, because they were making millions on royalties at that point at Marvel anyway. So let's just say they stayed at Marvel and Image never happened. Do you think Marvel still goes, we've got to restructure the royalty plans because these guys got too much money?
I bet you 100%. I feel they do. If you don't mind me coming, I know I'm late.
No, it doesn't matter. You're part of the show, Billy.
Yeah, no, I think 100% because again, not everyone was making that amount of money in royalties. And I think Marvel definitely would have done that. And then I think the same thing would have happened. I think the speculation bubble would have burst. I don't think it would have been as big because when the Image guys came, I think they helped really fuel that. But the numbers would have dropped. They would have went down. And then they're like, yeah, you know what? Rob Liefeld, your styles is kind of, that's so 1992. We're going to go with, think about it. I mean, Rob was able to carry forward his style and inspire so many artists because he was Rob Liefeld at, of Image Comics, of his Extreme Studios.
Because they got to create their own IPs. They got to market and brand themselves outside of a corporate structure. And so, yes, Marvel would have definitely put pressure on those guys, all of us, and tried to put us under their thumb. I think you're 100% right, Billy. And the inevitable still would have happened. 2-3 years, maybe 4 years, riding high, and then the bubble still would have burst, and those guys would have been effed. They would have been back, working, for page rate. And back in the trenches like everybody else, but they created something beyond that and got to rest on that. I mean, Jim Lee sold, Wildstorm to DC Comics. Yeah, I mean, that's an avenue that he would never have had if he stayed at Marvel.
Yeah, and he sold it for $5 million,
which is nothing.
Which is nothing. I mean, well, speaking of nothing, look at talking about what's more popular.
I take it. DC.
I take it in a second. Don't get me wrong, but for what he was selling himself. I mean, DC hasn't really done much with any of that stuff.
No, they haven't.
They've tried.
I heard that DC actually thought that they were going to get those talents. They thought they were going to be able to get Alan Moore. That ABC Comics thing that was still doing very, very well, and they kind of had their sights on that as well. But yeah, you can't buy talent. I mean, that's just.
Well, you can, right? Like Aaron Lopresti. I mean, I think
they pay me enough. I'm still waiting to be bought.
Not in that kind of way. You can't.
I know. But speaking of that wasn't a lot of money. Did you guys cover the Dan Jurgens Superman 75 art?
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
Crazy.
Well, not enough. I mean, do you have any links or anything?
Before we go that way, let me put this because this is kind of interesting. Paul Taylor getting his $10 worth. See, I read a few more. He paid $10. I'm going to give him a few more.
Of course.
He says YouTube restructured their payment system so they didn't have to pay successful YouTubers nearly anywhere as much money. So really, that just sort of plays to what you guys, when you answered my question, is saying that it doesn't matter what would have happened, they still would have cut the way to, so we didn't have to pay these guys as much and didn't promote them as much, so they wouldn't make as much money. Because even if it wasn't, they didn't have to worry about maybe these guys stealing their limelight. They were still getting money, and more money than they probably wanted to give them. So they would have done something. to
Right.
eliminate that. And just like we see YouTube here
So
going,
the argument would have just progressed like between Marvel and the creators. They would just go, no, Todd, it's Spider-Man. It's Spider-Man. And then Todd would argue, no, it's me. It was selling this. And then they would just keep doubling down. No, it's Spider-Man. You know, and then with X-Men, it would be the same argument, so on and so forth.
yeah.
And the thing is, we all know, we're all in agreement that that's false. It was those guys on the book. Artists can make a difference in the sales. They've done it tons of times in the past.
100%. Because I remember going. I was buying the art, and I remember I got into Daredevil right in college, and the Miller run on Daredevil. Right. I just fell in love with the whole thing, as many people did. But then when they did the Daredevil with the armor, you know, I like Scott McDaniel, I like his art, but I just didn't like that, so I didn't really buy those. Then when Lee Weeks came on, I started buying it again because I loved Lee Weeks' art.
Right.
You know, and then Todd, did you cover Todd's quote about him explaining comic art and writing? Oh, well, okay. So Todd McFarlane made a famous quote, and he said, I can sell a book that is drawn by Michelangelo and written by my dog. I can sell that book. Yeah. What I can't do is sell a book that is written by William Shakespeare and drawn by my mom.
Right.
He's
That's
right.
true.
Yeah, because you know what did we come out? Aaron Lopresti, I mean, fantastic artist, winner of Comicsgate Kings last night. Did you win you won the favorite piece of art? Did you win the high bid too?
I lost by $10.
Lost by $10. I bet you to another artist. I'll bet anything to another artist.
Yeah, exactly. It was John Malin.
Yeah, but Aaron made it up in the shipping because Aaron charges a lot for shipping.
That's right. See, Malin gave him free shipping. I did not, so I actually did better than Malin did. Major Glitch for £2 sterling says, "Is this enough to buy Aaron?" Well, it's enough to buy me to read your chat, but that's about it.
That's as far as it goes. Yeah. I hear it's illegal to buy a human being anyway.
I think I believe that is true.
Not in the Middle East, it's not, or Africa. You're allowed to do it there.
It depends.
Let's all move to the Middle East and see how well we do.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll do great.
Well, no, I mean that's
your little pink ass art, man. They be grabbing you.
There's no way. There's no way that even back when anybody in the chat was a kid or we were kids, that we picked up a comic book that we thought looked like crap.
Right.
You picked it up if it looked cool, and that's because it was drawn in a way that appealed to you. So the art is always more important because that's the book cover selling the book, right? You don't put Frazetta on all those Conan novels in the 60s or those Edgar Rice Burroughs novels. You're not even going to get half the sales on those, and the story doesn't change.
Right.
But those covers were awesome, and that's why people picked them up. And then they read the book and go, "Oh, this is really cool. I want to read more."
Right.
But
just to shit on your point, I did buy books because I love the character. So I bought Daredevil regardless, you know, like through the years because I love the character.
But you have to start loving the character at some point. Right. And it's because you like the way he looks or you think there's something cool about that character. Then you get into him. I mean, I bought a variety of Spider-Man artists because I was addicted to Spider-Man and it didn't matter who drew it. I was picking up the issue.
Right.
But that's not what got me to first pick it up. It was this guy looks cool. John Romita, this is really cool. Or
I think what makes a brilliant comic is a creative team that gets the character and that there is chemistry between the talents. And I don't mean just the writer artist. I mean writer, artist, inker, colorist, letterer.
Oh, you want the whole team to click.
Right. You get the whole team and they're all firing on, this, with all cylinders and they're all going in the same direction. But the thing is, it happens so infrequently. Like there's a handful of runs that I've worked on that I would go, this was flawless. Like this was amazing. Great visual storytelling, great written storytelling, inks, colors, lettering, the whole team. And that could be the problem too. Like one of the things you were saying, Aaron, about chemistry is like let some of this stuff happen organically, and then you'll see a team come together. And I always thought that was the beauty of comics, especially when I started, because sometimes these editors, they might have known what they were doing, but I think most of the time they didn't, but they would take a chance. Like, let's put this inker with this penciler, and you go, they have nothing in common, right? They're from completely different worlds. Right. And then this new thing gets created,
now,
out
would
of
that be, with that example, like, to give example, would that, like, this pencil, this inker don't match up, like, would that be like Vinnie Coletta and anyone else?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, but he didn't really connect with anybody.
You know what what happened to me several times, I was very fortunate to have this happen to me. Like when I started on Wonder Woman, Gail said to me, she goes, "What do you want to draw?" Right. And sometimes you get that, sometimes you don't. But I said, barbarians and all that kind of crap. And so she crafted a story that fit my my interest. And so that first 4 or 5 issues of Wonder Woman are really, really nice. And I had, of course, Matt Ryan inking me, who's fantastic. And then I had Brad
Vincata?
No, the colorist, Brad Anderson.
Oh, Brad Anderson. Yeah.
Coloring it, but he was new, and the stuff just looked fantastic. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I got to keep this guy. And they like immediately took him and put him on bigger projects. But for like 4 or 5 issues, but that was the writer to a certain degree, not cowtailing, but saying, hey, what do you want to draw that's going to, and then crafting a story around a subject matter that I was really comfortable doing. And then you get a really great comic out of it.
Right.
I think that's smart. It's just smart business. And also it kind of takes some of the pressure off the writer, because then the writer doesn't have to come up with something out of whole cloth that you can actually inspire the writer, to come up with something or go outside of their box or their wheelhouse.
And that's when you start getting really good comics.
I agree.
Hang on a second. Jay Roscoe.
Jerry, what's up, buddy?
Says, hi guys, great to see you tonight. Looking forward to seeing everyone, hopefully, for the Fans Fest. Getting a table myself, going to be a great time. Thank you, Jerry. Appreciate that.
Yeah,
5.
Dude. Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
And Chartle for
Frenemy.
$5. I wondered if there was a dirty word in there that I was missing, but $5. Thank you. So someone once told me that most, if not all, writers are failed artists anyhow. Well, I've got an old saying, or I've got a saying that I hope is becoming old, that I'm proud that I coined it. I said, just because you're just because you I don't even remember my
old saying. How old is it?
Aaron's making it up right now.
Back in the day when just because you're an artist doesn't mean you can't write, and just because you can't draw doesn't mean you can write. So there you go.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, there is some truth to the writer artist thing, because
yes,
I think good writers, a lot of those guys can storyboard a comic book. It might, the characters, and there might not be sophistication to it, but a lot of those guys could draw. And I think a lot of the really good writers could, come up with visual thumbnails, things like that, because I've worked with some of them. Mike Carlin, he was an editor, but he had great artistic skills and would kind of draw things out for you, and I think good inkers they might not be great pencilers, or accomplished enough to do 22 pages a month, but they have understanding. You know what I mean? They have some pencil skills. So I do think like some of the really good ones do have a combination of talents.
Well, talent usually falls victim to economics. In other words, the people that are really good usually cost the most money, and those are the people that the company least wants to pay. So you look at guys like when Chiarello got let go as art director at DC.
Yeah.
My dog's even pissed about it still. But it's like he was the greatest, man. He knew what he was doing.
Yep.
And you could talk, and he was cool. He wasn't an a-hole, you know, and he was easy to work with on covers and stuff. And he would tell me, hey, you know, color wise, if I was coloring my own cover, he'd go, what about this? And I, you know, and we could have discussions, and it was totally cool. And he was always like, hey, I don't want to step on your toes, but I'm like, tell me, man, tell me. And
because also you knew he was the real deal, so you didn't mind having these conversations.
Right. Exactly right.
Yeah, nothing's worse than somebody who, you know, is totally blowing smoke up your butt
and don't know what they're talking about. Yep.
Yeah, and talking you down and not understanding anything. Yeah.
Right. So Billy, Super Mastermind 1732 for $5. Thank you, sir. He says, Tucci, look up Blue Eye Samurai, your market. It's alive. Where the F is yours.
All right. I know all about Blue Eyed Samurai. We actually got we actually sent out some packages to some people who wanted it, wanted to see She. So we sent them our first omnibus. We sent them Senryaku, and we sent them the Revenge of the Warrior trilogy, which is great. Now you guys have your own IPs, right? You could send them this stuff, and we're gonna have a meeting in New York City. So let's see what happens.
Whoa!
Throwing that out there now, but let's
see. Big Apple.
Now, here's the thing, Billy. Are you guys going to go to Madami's free grocery store to get lunch before for your meeting?
And are you going to take the free bus to get there?
Yeah,
one of them, or you know, or maybe I'll just take my chances and go on the subway, and so I get murdered to death.
There you go.
Then it doesn't matter if you're late for your meeting because
it doesn't matter at all.
Did you see it was in Britain or something? It was like on the subway or whatever, and there was this guy that was flashing. Of course, he wasn't a citizen of the country, and he was just like exposing himself to these ladies. And you know, when you're standing up and those ladies are sitting down, it's right there, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so, you know, he's doing his Wang dance. And so this one guy, I think it was in Britain, Wang Chung. And so he's like, hey, pull your pants up, whatever. And the guy gets belligerent with him. And then two other guys come and they kind of like flank this guy without his pants on.
Yeah.
You know? And if you're a guy, like, how do you approach this?
It's like something you don't want to touch. Really, you know?
Yeah, this is getting awkward. And so I think the guy pushed the new dude pushed one of the guys, and then just about then I think the subway stopped. The doors opened up, and two of those guys just bum rushed that guy and knocked him to the platform, and then got up and jumped back.
Just beat his ass.
They're like, look at you didn't touch his junk, did you? He goes, no, I didn't touch his junk.
No, I didn't.
Hey, look at this. Bo Smith says, hey, Bo, he says, just want to say this has been one of my favorite episodes yet. A lot of great points and opinions. Thanks. Thank you, Bo. It's my leadership that gets us there.
I think I have Bo Smith.
He's a good writer, you know, so whatever we say bad about writers, Bo, you're not one of them.
No.
You're exempt. You're
a good dude.
Yeah. Hey, Bo, I'm talking to Kevin Bernhardt, bro. About that thing I just mentioned, that's all Kevin Bernhardt's doing. So I'll give you a call tomorrow, fill you in.
Look at that.
Let's see. Hopefully some things will happen.
Secret behind the scenes. You know, I got to say, since Bo is watching, I say I've said this before, but I was like completely jobless. This is before CrossGen. And I had been blacklisted at DC because of the success of Tachyon. And I say success. And so I had nothing going. I reached out to Bo because we had done a proposal for a book at DC that didn't get picked up, but we had, you know, and he hooked me up with a pinup of Spawn.
Oh yeah,
for the book. And so I penciled and inked it and got $1,000 to pencil and ink a pinup for Spawn. And that got me through probably like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So I want to thank Bo for hooking me up with that.
Yeah, Bo's the real deal. He's a good guy.
Yep, he is. He's a prince. Actually, maybe we could have had a guest bro, and Bo would be a good guest bro someday.
Texie says, hey, Aaron, do the add-ons ship same time as Barbaric Adventures? Yes. 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 And if you're talking about like if you wanted to get back issues or something, yes, you have to wait until the book ships. You can also, if you want, you can go to my website and order any back issue and it'll ship out immediately. So
that's right.
If
As
it's
soon as that
vodka
order
champagne,
comes
it has
in,
to.
he
we have to
wakes his
wait.
mom up from her nap and says, "Get to work, lady. No free
Right.
rides in this
Yeah.
house."
That's
Quit
right.
watching Ironside and start bagging books. Let's
Yeah,
get on
like,
it.
on.
Aaron's like Ben Stiller in
Yeah.
what movie was that? The Wedding Singer or something or whatever. No,
No, it was
Happy Gilmore.
Yeah, Happy Gilmore. Yeah.
Oh, hello, Mr. Gilmore. How are you?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Number one, my
You know what's
fingers
wrong with
hurt.
that movie?
But
He never got his comeuppance.
he didn't. He did not.
At the end of the movie, and that was a major flaw in that
I
film.
think I don't even know if he got his comeuppance in the second one, in the remake.
I did not
the
see it.
sequel. They made a sequel, which
I
was
did
That
not
was a
see it.
Happy Gilmore 2?
yeah, it was good. It was
Yeah, it
actually
came out
good. It was
last year.
enjoyable. Yeah.
Really? I didn't see that.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
remember the one
Netflix.
lady? So there's Aaron's mom, and she's sitting there and she's putting tape and bags of boards, and he's like, "Mom, are you okay?" He's like, "My fingers hurt." And then Aaron's like, "Well, you just got now you're gonna be weeding the garden. You just got bumped up to
Are you kidding me? If she's like, my
Hard
fingers
labor.
hurt, if she's like, my fingers hurt, Aaron goes, "Let me introduce you to my friend, Ben Gay. Rub this one and get back to it, lady."
That's right.
And then she's crying.
Oh, Art, I just noticed this has been sitting here forever. We're probably well past the point, but did you want to make a point about this?
Point's gone. That's just that. What's that guy's name? I don't even remember
Nick
his name.
Tragata.
Tragata, yeah. So his claim to fame is the weirdly shaped Batman.
Batman is the Hulk.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing is about why I think this is successful is, number one, it's Batman, but it's like everything seems tired in the comic industry right now, and this is like a new take on Batman. So if you're like, it kind of gives you a new starting point with an old character. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think it probably felt like it was pretty surefire that it would do well. Probably not as well as it's doing. They probably didn't think that, but I'm not surprised.
Yeah, it's
It's well done. It's just like, it's not my Batman, but it's well done, and he is a good artist.
Yeah,
for sure.
I don't know if was that Nick's art?
It was in Nick's
Oh, okay.
off, yeah.
I read the first trade paperback. I enjoyed it,
Why do you always question me, Andy?
damn.
I speak the truth, Andrew.
Shut it. I enjoyed the first trade paperback, and I'm going to, I know the second one's out. I just haven't gotten it yet, but I plan on it. Looking through it, and I read the first issue. I bought the first issue, read it. I liked it. And I did make the decision of like, you know what? This is one I'll just get when it comes out as a trade. And then reading those first 6 or whatever that was in the trade, you can tell he's pulling some like cues storytelling wise from like manga and stuff like that with pacing and stuff. And you never know, that could be something, a reason behind it too is, oh, hey, you like this? Check this out. For the people that are just reading, manga,
right.
A little crossover. Yeah.
Yeah. A little bit of crossover.
I want to step back just real quickly here. We'll wrap this up in a few minutes, but Art, you made a point a while ago, and I was going to circle back to this about the longevity of artists being on series for a long time is really helpful into making a name for that artist, and also for the success of a title. Right? Is the continuity of the creative team is vital. We would all probably agree on that. Mm-hmm. When DC launched those new heroes books, if you guys remember, and I did a book called Damage. It was like their Hulk character.
Oh, right. Yep.
So what Dan DiDio did, which I still disagree with to this day, was he hired like big name people to launch the books without ever the intention that they would stay on them.
Yep.
Right. And so Damage was originally Tony Daniel, did 3 issues, and then he was gone.
Yeah, it's a bait and switch.
Yeah. So first of all, I thought that is a terrible idea. And then secondly, they went through 2 or 3 artists by issue 9. And then they called me and said, "Hey, Aaron, can you take over Damage and see if we can get this thing back on track and doing doing well. And I'm like, this book is already dead. And you're giving
It's damaged.
Yeah, it was already damaged. And the funny thing is, they had Carrie Nord on it just before me. And
Carrie's brilliant.
Great.
hang on a second. My grandson is coming in. I got to say hi. I'm hosting. So
Oh, that's not your grandson. That's your wife. Get your glasses fixed.
well, no, that.
Say hi, Papa.
Oh,
Bubby.
There
he
Looks
is.
like he's throwing a fit.
Yeah.
Okay, no Papa. Oh,
Papa.
Did you hear that? He says, Nana, no Papa. So,
oh, wow.
Hi, Papa.
wow.
Rough.
Here he
You do
is.
that to me?
down, please.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. See you guys later.
Oh. Stomp.
I got totally dissed. I got dissed by my own grandson. It's
See,
tragic.
there's Papa, honey. Say hi, Papa.
He's dissing me hard, man.
So wait, you want us to be surprised that a young boy is dissing you for Shelley? Get out of here.
Well, not really, but okay. So anyway, my point being that the Carrie Nord did 2 issues and they were really good, but they didn't like the way he was doing the character, so they pulled him off. And I was just like, and then it eventually trickled down to me, and I took over because you take jobs in the industry because you need work. Right. If that's what they're offering you, you take it. But I knew it was already dead. You can't come in like that, having 3 artists take over a book. I mean, the writer was the same.
And 6 issues or so?
Yeah, I was on issue 9 when I came in.
Wow.
I just don't know. I mean, for that book alone, I just wouldn't have went with Damage, because there was a Damage book that went for 20 some issues in the 90s that my friend Bill Merriman started.
Wasn't that Damage Control for Marvel or something?
Nope. There was a book called Damage.
Okay.
Damage Control was Marvel, but DC had a book called Damage in the 90s. And as soon as I saw this one, I was like, oh, they're bringing that guy back?
Yeah. But the thing is, it's like, look at New 52. Like DC had the industry's attention that first year, right? And so they laid out all of this stuff, right? This is what we're going to do. We're going to have one and dones. We're not going to do these major storylines. We're going to have this reinvention, this team, all this stuff. And within, I don't know, 6-8 months, they were busting up teams. They were changing direction on things. I worked on Hawkman, and I think, what was his name? Philip Tan started it. And then Joe Bennett and I took it over, and then Rob came in. And like you said, Aaron, with Damage, it was already gone. You know what I mean? By the time we got on the book, there was no resurrecting it. And the same thing happened in reverse with what's the assassin's name?
Deathstroke?
Yeah, the Terminator, Deathstroke, the Terminator.
Deathstroke.
So Joe and I started on that book. It was kind of a reverse. And then Tony Daniel came in, but this was like 6 issues into it or whatever it was. It wasn't even a long run. And they were already busting it up, and not just breaking up the team, but they were also changing the direction of things. So how do you expect anybody to really get involved if there's no permanence? If the company doesn't even believe in it enough to see it through, then your audience is just going to bail. And I'll tell you, as far as just like their old school comic, buyers and the mainstay, that's the biggest betrayal both Marvel and DC did to their audience, is none of this stuff felt tangible. None of it felt real. None of it felt like they were going to really dedicate themselves to this stuff. And it always felt temporary. And it always felt like a little bit of a publicity stunt, which it really was. Yeah. And so how do you expect somebody to get excited when it's not even going to be around in 6 months? And also to what you were saying, Aaron, is longer runs. I used to say this, like, okay, you have your favorite TV show, right? It's the A-Team or whatever it is, right? You watch it every week. And then like three episodes into it, they get a bunch of different actors. To play the same character.
Right.
I mean, to me, because when you follow an artist, that's a certain look. Like that's Tom Cruise, right? That's, Art's drawing Tom Cruise on this book. you know, and then Aaron comes in and then, you know, you're drawing, you know, I don't know, whoever on the book, you know, probably a female of some sort.
But you see, that's what I told Dan. I was like, Dan, why didn't you just get me from the beginning? You know, because then I would have made the deadlines and then we could have had a real vision to see if this book was going to make it or not.
Right.
You know, instead of just piecemealing it all together all the time. But, you know,
I think it's because, like with the New 52, they didn't spend enough time actually thinking it through. Like when they did Crisis, that was across the whole industry, you know, all of DC, mostly Marv Wolfman and Giordano, and I can't remember who else was the brain trust, but they all thought that stuff out. There was like Bibles written. There was like, this is how we're going to do it. There was detail, like the year one stuff and things that was left to the individual talent. But as far as just building or just kind of destroying and then rebuilding, that was all kind of in stone. You could tell, you know what I mean? It didn't feel like afterthoughts. It felt like this was thought out. But
they used to do that, right?
Didn't.
I mean, you were part of that Superman team, weren't you? When they had all the Superman writers would get together and they'd figure out what they were going to do for the entire year, and they'd have the conference and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And they kept it on track. But then you had pretty good leadership at the time, you know, and understanding that that's what you just can't randomly hire a bunch of people and say, do whatever you want.
Right.
And trying to get a continuity in a universe or whatever. And I mean, we're kind of off the track of, you know, artist writer, but it really gets to the core point of making a good comic book or making a bad comic book. And that's really where it starts. And that's what we're talking about here is this just sort of loose, random approach. I mean, I have no idea what's going on at DC and Marvel in terms of like a vision for, you know, their line.
But it is kind of on topic because Jim is trying to get sales and excitement, you know, and he's kind of going, well, the art is important, you know, maybe more important than the writers. You know, so we're kind of saying, you know, that it's not just those things, it's all these other things as well that need to be fixed. But I think, like we said earlier too, I don't think the leadership really has the skills or the vision to pull it off, because I don't think they really sincerely know what is wrong or how to fix it.
And that's your bottom line when you have people in power that don't, you know, don't have the understanding of the market and the creativity and all these different things that go into this stuff, because it's a challenging market right now. It's a really challenging market right now.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
You know, and you don't have the money or the resources, just throw crap at the wall and hope you get lucky. You need to plan it out, and you need to plan it out with people with experience that actually have an idea and understand and know what your best chance of success is. It's not a guarantee, but you've also got to have the talent. And there's questions about, you know, someone in the chat posted a long time ago earlier in this discussion about, you know, you got all these woke writers coming in here pushing political agendas and no one's actually writing stories. And now how do you get away from that? You practically have to start over, but now you got to find writers who are willing to write stories and not push the woke agenda.
Right.
Because that's what you've been forcing on everybody for the last 5 years or six, whatever, since whenever Trump got elected.
Where do you find those guys? You've already chased them out. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So where is
but it's
the
also
talent?
the sad thing too, though, is that you have the leadership there, the editorial, that don't want that. They want that political
Right.
shit.
That's what I'm saying. That's bad leadership.
It's a cancer really that's going through comics. And the thing is, because no one's really held accountable. I mean, the editors get paid shit, right? They don't pay them a lot of money, so they don't care. And these publicly traded companies, it's not like, hey man, our sales are down, like say Dark Horse, right? Something like that. Oh my God, our sales are down. You know, this book's dying, but well, you know, no one's buying it because you're throwing this woke bullshit in there. Well, let's change it. You know what I mean? Like say Marvel in the 70s. They would change it. Now, though, again, I feel that because it is a publicly traded company, they are just a very, very small cog in a giant machine.
Right.
That no one's because they don't care.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, because at the time too, they were getting money from BlackRock, so they were scoring ESG points and things like that. So they weren't really making these comics for the readers. They were making them for these, you know, these investors and people putting money into their books. But like I think real leadership is, like I've said this for a long time now. Like I think I know the hero is only as good as the villain, right? So what's really lacking? The villain. If you want to make your heroes more contemporary, give them a contemporary villain. So I would almost like not mandate, but I would put this out there for the company. Like if it's DC Comics, Jim Lee says, you know what, we're gonna share ownership with villains. We just want everybody to focus on villains. Pitch us good villains for this guy, that guy, whoever, and then just say there's going to be split ownership. You guys will get a percentage of whatever the financial deal is, but do that. And like Spider-Man, if you think about like why was Spider-Man so cool the first year? God, it was like villain after villain after villain. Like Spider-Man was fighting all these different types of villains and things like that. So if you want to really excite readers, challenge them with these villains.
Yeah.
And then just create all new villains. And if you want to make Superman more contemporary, don't change Superman. Have him fight a more contemporary villain. Something that you haven't seen him fight yet. And then all of a sudden he seems more relevant. He seems more like contemporary.
That's an excellent point.
Excellent point.
It really is true, because if you look at your most popular heroes are the ones that have the best rogues galleries.
Right.
Batman and Spider-Man. They're not even close.
Yeah.
No one can even touch those two because their rogues galleries are so great. And you're always like, man, I can't wait till the Green Goblin comes back, or the Molten Man is melting and he's going to die, and Spider-Man's got to stop him. And it just, you're right. That is so.
But even some of like the cool Disney, DC villains, like with Batman, got like you said, one of the greatest rogues gallery. They weren't all created, in the same year. Like a lot of those characters were created over decades. They've proven that formula does work. But if you did it as a cross the board kind of corporate thing, and then had some kind of profit sharing, I think you could get some of the best ideas from these guys. Because also, let's just face it, a lot of these writers and artists, they're not given these ideas because they're not getting compensated for it.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's what everybody's learned, like the hard way, right? Is like we're dumb. Andy and I were talking about this before the show started. We were like, I just want to work for Marvel and DC. I don't care if they even pay me. You're going with that attitude, and you start realizing you created a bunch of stuff for them, not me, but others have, that, they're making a ton of money on, and you're not seeing any money for all the stuff you gave them. And now suddenly no one wants to give them anything because they don't want to see them turn it into millions of dollars and you get nothing for it.
Right.
And so unless they, like you said, Art, I think that's a great thing is, I think DC did that a little bit with some creator ownership stuff. And I don't remember exactly what the deals were when they created stuff more recently, like when Dan was in charge. I know that was going on. But if you did come out and say, hey, you get a pretty 20%, maybe whatever, of this character, then, you incentivize people to, and again, a lot of times artists create something that's really interesting, or even a writer and an artist team, because you're going to need one. Right. One can't operate without the other, right?
Or the idea could come from a letterer or a colorist or anybody. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to just go.
Let's not get crazy.
Let's not get crazy here. Those guys.
No, I'm a joke.
But anyway, I think this is kind of interesting. Let's.
You got another $10 super chat from Mr. Alan Goldman.
Goldman Penciler. What is R? What is R? Is that Romania or something?
Restricted.
I thought he was down in Australia, but that's not Australia.
No, that's not what R is.
It's $10 something.
It's a ruble.
There you go. Marvel. He's Russian. Marvel and DC are done. They live on events and revamps to survive for 6 months with a lucky. That's true. They can't do good stories with good characters on long run anymore. That's just. You could also argue that's true. Thank you for the 10, by the way. There.
Yeah.
Appreciate that, man. Let's go around here. I think this has been. I agree with Bo Smith. This was a very engaging topic today. I thought this was really interesting. But we all have like campaigns that all have really good villains, I think. So let's start with Andy. What are you selling today, Andy? To our
selling selling myself. Lilith, Infernal Conflict, guys. I've got a page over halfway inked on my desk. Plan to finish that one tomorrow.
You want to
People
share it?
trucking. What's that?
You want to
Yeah,
share it?
Andy, sure.
No, it's halfway done. It's on my desk.
Why
I'm not
not?
rushing
You share
there.
the process, man. No, okay.
No, I'm good.
All right.
It is
Sometimes you
it's
just
coming
can't
along
help it.
nicely. I know the links are in the description below.
They are.
Having real fun on it. Actually, hold on. All right, since you brought it up, let me see.
I brought it up. If you want to share your
I
campaign,
got the layout. I got the layout scanned in
Okay.
because I'm always changing up how I do things. I'm doing my layouts. I feel like Billy Tucci. I'm doing my layouts on 11 by 17 copy paper, and then I scan them in. And
I hate to interrupt you, but check this out. Shelly just scored some shoes for the grandson. Look
That
at
is
that.
way
Look at
too small for your foot, Aaron.
Look at those.
Our
The Avenger.
grandson is just obsessed with
Oh, he's got good
Hulk
taste.
and Iron Man.
Captain America.
Captain America is Kappa Shield.
Yep. So anyway, so Nana once again spoiling the kid, gets him some Avengers pennies.
No, it's
Well,
good.
he's running. He grows through shoes. He just turned 2 and he's barely wearing 3Ts. He's almost out of 3Ts.
He's a giant.
He's genuine.
Wow.
He's a
All right, hold
superhero
on.
in the making.
Pulling it up now.
Super tall. So
That's how you get in good with the grandkids. That's when your grandkid says, "No,
No,
Papa,
Papa."
Nana." So anyway,
That's right.
oh my Nana Baba.
all right, Andy. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. So I was saying I'm drawing it on 11 by 17 copy paper, and then I scan it and convert it to blue.
This sounds very sort of
And,
Neil Adams-y, high-tech Neil Adams
and
approach.
print- That's right. And I print it out and I ink it. So, all right, let me share.
It takes forever. Why don't you?
Shut your mouth.
Jeez,
Shut your
Andy.
damn mouth.
Wow.
Wow, Andy Smith. Wow. Just wow.
Yeah,
I
we
know.
thought Billy was bad.
Thank
It's
you.
okay. So you can share it.
Thank you.
All I'm getting is a white screen. Why am I only getting white? What did you share?
I'm
Great.
seeing a full screen on my end in my thumbnail. I can see it. Can nobody else?
There it is. Okay, there it is. It finally
So
became.
this is 11 by 17. We've got chick fighting going on now. Succubus against
Okay,
succubus.
hang on a second. There is a lot of juggage in this.
Mm.
Oh, look
Well,
at
they're
that.
dressed. Well, Lilith is dressed for as much as she does wear clothes, but
Mm.
it's the rough drawing. I don't need to do anything else. I can just ink from this. Look at that tight perspective grid back there. Yeah,
Mm.
baby.
Oh no! See, are you one of the guys that does that? You actually put the grid in, or just sometimes?
Yeah. No, I always
Wow.
put it in.
Look at that.
So tight
You
perspective
know what,
grid.
Andy? Throw the grid in with a blue line pencil, and then it solves a lot of problems.
Why? Art.
He's
I
light
put this
table
whole
on this
thing
thing.
out in blue
Oh, you're
to
pretty.
ink it on Bristol.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to ink right over this. You said
No. This is drawn on 11 by 17 copy paper. Then I scan it, convert everything to blue, and then print it out on Bristol.
Here's some of the comments. Here's some of the comments in the chat. Boobs, juggage, highly approved. It's busting off the paper.
Thank
That's
you.
right.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
She slings her whip and takes that chick's head right off. She's like, I got this. This
whip
book's
it,
got
whip it
blood and
good.
guts and all that good
Oh,
stuff.
hell yeah.
I like how her boobs are unfazed though by her head getting slapped off.
Well,
You're still
Still as-
perky and
so that's the whole page. So four
Grateful-
panel action page.
Gray
You know
Wolf.
what, Andy? When a problem comes along, you must whip it.
Yeah, I
Did indeed.
I use a Epson. Gray Wolf wants to know what type of scanner.
yes.
I use a Epson Workforce all-in-one oversized, so it scans 11 by 17, prints 11 by 17. It prints bigger actually, but yeah. So it's an Epson Workforce. Mine's a 7510, but
Those
it's at
are
least
that you
10
still
years
that
old,
still
so-
works, huh? Your 7510 still works. I had to buy like a
Yeah.
I got a gigantic expression 12,000 XL Epson that's flatbed, about 13 by 19, I think is the biggest it can scan. Those are expensive though. The workforce that Andy has is actually a fairly affordable and pretty good scanner.
Yeah.
And I've had it actually. I've had this. I just said 10 years. I take it back. I've had this since I've lived in this house. I've had this same printer for about 15 years. So,
And it still prints too.
yeah, it does everything.
Yeah, my scanner part worked, but my printer kind of went the way of the dodo, if you know what I'm saying.
That's
My
right.
printer
So
also-
there it is. There's the actual campaign page. Go back it. We've got 3 copies left of the newsprint edition. So you can still get in on that action. Got a foil cover. Of course, like somebody said in the chat, let's see, open image, a new tab. The big, beautiful box is the best deal of the campaign. You want to get this one. It's got the exclusive black and white art for Malin's cover and the Usurcia bookmark. It's got a 2-inch Lilith figure, all in a great collectible box, shipped inside of another box. You got to get this, baby.
Wow, look at
So,
that.
A
I like that
box
little
in a
figure.
box.
Box
That's
in a
right.
box. Yeah.
Box in a box. So there you go.
All right. There you go. And you'll find a link in the description of this video. Take you right to the campaign. You can back it right there. So please give
Thank
that
you.
some serious
Looks
consideration.
great, Andy, and I know it took forever, but I really enjoyed looking at your layouts.
There you
Thank
go.
you.
Art to Bear. Speaking of art.
Art. This page after the show, I'm going to finish up the cleanups and then send this off to the colorist. So this is page 53. We are making headway here on the book. And so speaking of good villains, this is
Speaking
one
of
of the
Perky
villains here.
Boom.
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah. So she's taking his laptop away. She's really badass with this guy, but when you read the story, you'll understand. So this is a robot bar. I had a ton of fun just designing this thing and putting all these cool robots in there.
Look at that, man. Do you guys ever, because we're so old and we've seen so much in terms of technology, do you ever catch yourself like drawing like a cell phone, but you draw it like a flip phone? And you're like, wait a minute. Okay, they don't even have these anymore. It has to be an iPhone. It has to be a, I do that like often. I will like screw up the tech. Like I'll draw someone holding a phone and I'll go, what am I doing? They don't even have these anymore.
Nope. I have not done that.
Maybe it's just me.
Yeah, I haven't had that problem, but the thing is too, like black and white, and even like Chrono Mechanics, it's not really based on any like real world stuff. It kind of is, but it's not like our world.
Oh, it looks
So
great.
I don't really get into those kind of aspects. So I just kind of try to create cool stuff and put them in cool environments.
Goldman Penciler for another 5 says R stands for real, or real, the Brazilian currency. Great stuff.
Oh,
Indian art. There we go. We
This
learned
is
something.
educational.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is great stuff. This is great stuff, Art. I'm just really impressed with the artwork you're doing on this book.
Thank you. And so we are closing in on the next stretch goal. So if you guys want some more cool stuff, come by, back it. If you haven't got yourself some of the t-shirts, pick the t-shirts up. We have the black and white t-shirt at a discounted price. So get those with the merch, show them off, be proud. And I want to thank everybody that has supported Black and White. Everything that I do, I appreciate. And all the bro supporters out there. So thank you guys as well. So Billy, what do you got?
Rand, Revenge of the Warrior. Well, thank you for that one. Guys, this is our Indiegogo campaign. We are approaching $80,000 for Rand, Revenge of the Warrior. $80,000, guys. Thank you, each and every one of you, for supporting us. We have 30 pages of the 44 pages of story and art already colored. This book will go to the printer at the end of this month. And we're also, once we hit $80,000, our next stretch goal is going to be to expand the book from 48 pages to 56 pages. And I'll tell you why. Do you want to know why?
I want to know why.
Why, Billy?
Shelley wants to
I
know.
knew.
There you go. Thank you, Shelley.
You're
Because we're going to
welcome,
expand it from 48 to 56 pages. And guess what? We're adding 10 new pages of story of a new character's debut. The debut
Oh my
of a new
God.
character. We're
Okay.
debuting. It's going to be the very first appearance of this character because my character, debuted in Razor. This character right here, debuted in She. So why not have a new Aaron Lopresti? Why not have a new character
I always say
debut
that.
in this book? And it's going to be
That's
a
what I always
book.
say. But you know what else I always say, Billy? I say, that picture of Rand, that sort of looks like Debbie in the face. I'm wondering, did she pose for this?
Yes, but and just like Andy Smith's roughs, all nude.
That's right, baby. That's the only way to do it.
Nude. But when you read, so I
love it. If she was
That goes for the guy in the white suit too.
if she was standing behind him, he'd be getting hit in the head with a heel right now.
Behind him, he gets
Shelly. Yeah, well, she hits. She hits with her shoes.
Yes, she does.
She hit me.
She really got a shoe upside the head a couple times in South Carolina.
So Shelly, what Debbie ends up doing is she ends up, while I just start telling my stories or just start talking, and my whole family waits for it. She always wears like pumps, 4-inch pumps, 5-inch, and she takes the shoe off. And as I'm talking, and she just raises it and like this, RT Bear.
Right. Yeah, right. There's a hole in the back side of your head there.
Aaron, we were talking about you, and she just said I was lucky that she wasn't wearing heels that night. We went out with that woman, that harlot that came to dinner that time.
that harlot.
Yeah, and then she tells you, now, do you remember this? Debbie said, now Shelly, you don't know me very well, but she said the woman had to go to the bathroom. And I said, oh, I'll show you where the bathroom is, or I'll walk. What did Debbie say, Andy?
She said, as she recounted the story for everybody, that the woman said, I have to go use the bathroom. And then, as Deb put it, and then Billy says, oh, I'll walk you to the bathroom.
What?
Yeah, you would have got the Shelly look from me, like, want to try that again? But
I would not have said that. I can't understand. I have no idea where the hell that comes from.
Do you need help?
Oh my gosh.
Man, I escort you I didn't even know where the ladies' room is. I've never been to that restaurant. How would I know where the ladies' room is?
Oh man!
Like if I was like, oh, I just came back from the ladies' room. I'll show you where it is.
So
maybe.
And then she screams at me like I'm crazy because I don't remember anything. Apparently, I'm the guy that doesn't remember anything.
Well, see, we're the opposite. I don't remember much. But
yeah, well,
I can get away with murder because Shelly's like, she'll say something. I go, that never happened. She goes, oh, okay.
All right.
She goes, oh, you're
I gotta
right.
tell you, I do remember. I remember everything that woman was wearing. No.
Oh boy, you better hope she's not.
Or Aaron, what she wasn't wearing. Hey, Shelly, Aaron was across from her, not me.
Oh.
Yeah, but she was annoying the crap out of me. That's all I can
say. What are you looking for now?
Oh.
Something to embarrass.
Anyway, so guys, if you guys could support, we're going to close this campaign out probably the end of this month. Once I deny, I'm doing the back cover to that book. I'm doing that this week. I got to finish a page here that I'm working on. Then I'll do that cover tomorrow, have it done, get it colored, and then we'll make that big announcement, man. And I hope you guys can support us. We're going to send this bad boy to the printer and move on to the next one. But I got something cool to show you, Aaron, something I haven't done in a long time.
Waited my whole life for this.
I bought a comic book at the Comic-Con.
Oh, yeah.
You did what?
I bought a comic book.
Well, is that your first one?
Bucks.
Is that your first one?
Well, probably my first Fantastic Four. It's the third Frightful Four. I don't know what that means. I don't even know who they are.
So was this just because the cover was interesting to you, or why?
It was an interesting cover, and I wanted some Kirby action.
And you said, I've got to start a comic book collection. I keep appearing on these comic book shows, and I have no idea about comics. I need to start investing.
Well, I do have some comics. I do have Fantastic Four #1 that I bought in '95.
Once you start, slippery slope.
No, I'm at that age, unlike your husband and Andy over here. I'm getting rid of stuff.
Oh, we're.
I actually have been getting rid of stuff. I'll have you know.
Have you? But guess what?
You just have to burn it down and run.
Yeah.
So when I bought it because I wanted Kirby art, right? Mm-hmm. Vince Coletta fucking inked it.
Are you serious? You got the one Fantastic Four issue Joe couldn't do and Vince did?
That Vince Coletta inks.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
I know. And I'm
Get
like,
your $20 back.
yeah. And then Marcus Killigrew's telling me, well, Vince is the first one to do all this cool stuff with the thing. I don't know, the shading or whatever. I don't know what the hell he's talking about. Right here. But I looked it up, and in this splash page right here, there was an entire crowd of people that were also in the book, and they would Vince just decided not to draw them. But Vince Coletta, like, okay, I don't know.
Well, there was a deadline.
Yeah, but look at the hair. I mean, hang on. That's not great.
No,
it's not great.
Look at this face.
Back in the day.
No depth on that weapon in the foreground, the gun. No depth at all, man.
No. Well, I mean, this is great. This panel right here is cool, right?
I don't know which one you're pointing
panel
at.
2 is cool.
Okay.
But my God, but come on. I mean, Kirby Durant. Look at that hand. Look at Medusa's hand. I mean, honestly.
Well, we don't mean to be bashing Vinny Coletta. We don't like to speak out of that.
No.
But all right, Billy, thank you for that. That was
thank you, Aaron.
What?
For the chat too. So I've been so absent, for the last, I don't know how many years from pain and all that.
Yeah.
Today I got approved to have a peripheral nerve stimulator put in my neck.
Oh,
for 60 days. It's gross because the wires come out.
Very Frankenstein.
And the battery is stuck to my back and kind of stuff. It's not.
Oh my God. Aaron's getting excited just thinking about it.
Yeah, it's 60 days that's supposed to help retrain your brain not to register pain.
You know how else you can get rid of that pain in your neck?
Uh-huh.
Get rid of Aaron.
I knew that was coming.
If I could, I would.
Now look at this. Evil One Chris for $2 says, bring the Bickersons back. And that is a joke. When Shelly and I used to do Aaron live, and we would just fight on air.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Can we, because we're the Bickersons too. So I would love
you and Deb are worse than we are.
We have to be worse.
The interview today, they asked me if I had less pain, what am I looking forward to doing? And I was like, participate in life. Join my husband back on his show and have fun with our peeps. I even said just laundry, playing with my grandkids without so much pain, being drugged up constantly. And yesterday I got a steroid epidural for my neck. So hopefully when all this, it takes a while, I guess, to get it all.
You'll be
The
fine.
interview today was to see if I was smart enough to, because you have to run the machine, through an app.
Oh,
and so we're wanting to make sure I was cognitively aware on how to do that. And I said, well, I have a master's degree in mathematics. I think I can handle it. Yes, we does, but
Art will hook you up with some fatties.
Right. But if they test me, then I lose my pain meds. Even though it's legal in Oregon. They'll take away my pain meds.
You'd think in Oregon they would encourage it, but
yeah. And I have to have my pain meds. So, but I can't wait if it works and I can re-engage in life again. And
yeah, that'd be great.
Marcus Killigrew says Billy and Debbie are a sitcom.
Shelly, is it at all? Say this all works out, which I will pray hard for you that it does, and I know it will. But
thank you, love.
Is there a chance that maybe we will see you at San Diego Comic-Con anytime?
Well, depending on Sammy's schedule, someone has to be here with Mom.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But I would
make sure she's bagging and boarding while I'm gone. I can't leave her alone.
Gotta keep her working.
Right. No, I would love to. Right now, I am pretty much, not bedridden, but pretty much. So I would, if all this works, then it's just my low back, then
Well, let's see. Well, let's pray for that because we'd love to see you.
And then we go, okay, what do we do with the low back? Because I have quite a big problem in my low back, but
Oh, you poor thing.
they won't do any more surgery because I've already had so many.
Yeah.
So, but I may, if I come, I have to bring my walker.
So what?
What's wrong with that?
But
But,
that's
you
yeah, I
know,
know.
you
See, this
gotta
is
do what you gotta do.
Shelley pre-Walker days. There you go. Back in
Yeah.
the good old days.
And you had hair.
Yeah.
And
Young.
that's Linda Ryan.
And that was Aaron's best Comic-Con financially, and I think we know
Yeah, I
why.
wonder why. Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So thanks, you guys. I was really excited today when they were like, "Okay, so you're approved. I'm smart enough." Yay!
That's great.
That's great. God
and then
bless
we'll
you, honey.
figure out. But yeah, the walkers. I mean, as embarrassing as it is, it's incredibly helpful at least when I have to sit down, like I do right now, and and it carries stuff.
Yeah, that's
It
right.
has
You
a
put your purse
little
on there.
basket on there. Maybe I'll put a little ringer thing so I can get through the crowds at San Diego. And
Yeah, maybe a short box, Aaron, and she can go pick up your.
You pick up some comics for me on her walker. I can say
everybody will be like, "Can I borrow your walker? I got to go get stuff."
that's right. It's like a grocery cart.
Aaron, when did you lose your hair?
Geez.
Yesterday.
What is going on in the show right now?
People want to know. People want to know.
Oh, man.
I'm going to
Totally.
get to Shelly. Thank you for getting rid of the pink shirt.
I showed a picture.
Oh, your favorite shirt?
This thing is going completely off the rails. This is not what I was intending to do, but
your favorite pink
yeah,
shirt?
that salmon shirt I used to have.
Yeah, he wore that thing till it had holes and.
Oh my God! So that
Lord.
shirt originally was red, right?
That's me and Tony Harris back in the early days.
Wow, that's
Wow.
Tony Harris.
Yep.
That was he looked good in that shirt.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Look at that chest hair.
Look at that
Man's
Miami
man.
Vice
Yeah,
thing going
that's
on
still
there.
there. It's just gray.
Yeah.
Your
So
stubble.
that's the salmon we were talking about. So anyway, let me
Love you guys.
thank
you
you.
later. Bye-bye.
Good luck.
So I have a campaign too called Barbaric Adventures, and it's the story of Billy and Debbie, and it's pretty
Yeah, not far from the truth.
64 pages, square bound magazine format. That's 8.5 and 11 to you and me. Black and white with tonal rendering, so it's next level black and white. Look at these covers. Painted cover by me, featuring my gang. My story is called Primal Zone. It's a interdimensional dinosaur, Edgar Rice Burroughs type thing. And there's David Williams's cover featuring his characters, which is a young knight that has to battle a horde of demons to become a true warrior. Dan Lawless's Mars Madness story, which features a fallen civilization on Mars and a high-tech society that falls into disarray and savagery, and then this guy leads a rebellion to take out the people that have assumed leadership at that time. And then, of course, we have the great Joe Jusko coming in with a painted cover of Freya the Ice Princess, who's also a Yeti slayer. And so she's slaying Yetis here. So that was quite a coup to get Joe on there. Here's some of the original art pages, all the ink wash, good times had by all folks. You don't want to miss this campaign. So please back today. We've only got 21 days left, 368 backers. Once we get to 400 backers, we will be raffling off another original piece of artwork to one lucky backer. You will find the link in the description of this video. Go there, back us all, quite frankly. That's kind of what I really want to say. So
That's right. Back us all, back us hard.
That's
back us often.
Okay. So anyway, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this show. Actually, I thought, well, we'll do an hour, then get out of here. We went 2 hours because this was a hot topic, which I don't.
It was epic, and we had a lot to say.
We did.
Right.
A lot of experience on this
It's
panel.
something
and,
it's a good
a lot of
idea to
opinions.
revisit this too. I really like to. I have so much to say on this subject, and I'd
Well,
like.
if you get here on time, you're constantly, I got another JC's meeting. And we're like, shoot us.
No, it's American Legion, but I am not going to be an officer next year. I was the vice commander, and I run the color guard. And I'm like, I can't do all this stuff. So, I'll only be late one weekend, one Tuesday out of the month.
Okay, which is was this Tuesday.
which was this Tuesday.
Right. And you're like, can you start the show later? I'm like, no, Billy, you
you
do it on time, man.
You said, fuck you, Billy.
Yeah, well, actually, I didn't see your message. I would have run it later, but
Yeah,
you know,
it's okay. No, Aaron never. I never even heard Aaron curse.
Nope.
Nope. And you know what? I'm not going to curse anymore unless I use it in context. If I'm quoting someone or something.
That is fucking
we're
awesome.
all
as long as you
smarter
use it
than
in
that.
context, then it's okay.
Yeah. But
All right,
real
guys.
quick- okay.
Who gets this next week? Andy Smith.
I do.
And I'll bet Billy's on time because he likes Andy better than me.
You're damn right. We're cigar t-shirt wearing smoking buddies.
And
Heck yes.
hopefully Graham will be back and healthy enough. You know, he looks healthy on the outside, but inside he's just a wreck.
Yeah, he's
So-
He's
told
just a rotting shell.
Yeah.
He told us too of how he's like Pagliacci. You
See,
know,
remember that scene in like A Nightmare Before Christmas, that Oogie Boogie, when they opened him up and all those
Yeah, it's
maggots?
just the worms came out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of Graham. That's,
Yeah, kind of. But remember to back Shanu 77, Graham's book, which you'll also find in the description of this video. That's going to do it. Thank you, guys. See you
Good night, everybody.
later.
Bye.